Husband and mother-in-law's $300,000 house emerges from my wallet. Protect your assets? My name is Rachel, and I'm pushing 35. You won't believe the roller coaster of life I've been on, filled with family, deception, and a thirst for revenge. I had been married to Alex for more than a decade when things took an unexpected turn. Our life had been peaceful, or so I thought, until one day my mother-in-law, Nancy, showed up unannounced. Alex hadn't returned from work yet, and I figured she had something important to discuss. As soon as Nancy entered our living room, her disapproving sigh filled the air. "Rachel, you're just lazing around, watching TV at this hour. Alex is working so hard. Don't you feel sorry for him?" I bit my tongue, trying to keep my patience. I was preparing dinner in the kitchen until a moment ago, Nancy. I might have the TV on, but I've been productive today. But Nancy's criticism didn't stop there. She complained about dinner, the state of our house, and even my parents. I couldn't take it anymore and asked, "Did you need something, Nancy?" Her eyes widened in mock surprise. "Oh, don't get so mad just because I looked at the dinner." She pouted and sat heavily on the sofa to watch TV. "What do you need?" "It's not what do you need. Don't you think you should offer something to your mother-in-law who has kindly visited? Excuse me, you're such an inconsiderate person, not even serving tea. Poor Alex." I couldn't believe the audacity. I served her tea, but she complained about everything, even the taste of the tea. Back then, I was young and was avoiding arguing with my husband's mother, wondering if I should be considerate to her. However, taking advantage of the fact that neither my husband nor I said anything, my mother-in-law began to frequently visit our home, constantly complaining that I wasn't cleaning properly, that I was always lazy, and that I left discipline. After being constantly criticized at every turn, I was truly at my wit's end and decided to consult my husband about his mother. "Hey, could you ask your mom to reduce the number of times she comes to our house? Why is it that much of a bother when mom comes over? You've seen it, haven't you? No matter how much I work on the house or cooking, your mom keeps complaining about me." "Well, that's because mom wants you, Rachel, to work harder so she gets tough. I'm doing my best, but if she comes over without notice, I can't even prepare dinner properly. If you're bothered, say it yourself, but don't forget that mom cares about us too." Throughout, my husband was like this. He never really worried about what I was saying. No matter how much effort I put into cleaning the house or studying cooking, my mother-in-law would nitpick and never praise me. Once, the vegetables my mother-in-law brought were clearly close to their expiration date, so I used them for dinner. Then my mother-in-law sighed conspicuously to serve such withered vegetables to her husband and his mother. I finally realized that she just wanted to bully her daughter-in-law. Being persistently criticized, I consulted my father-in-law. When I told him that it was hard to prepare meals for my mother-in-law and that it was a problem to be visited many times without notice, he seemed not to know she was coming to our house and apologized to me politely. "I thought she was going out to dinner with friends. I didn't think she was bothering you, Rachel. I'm sorry." "No, it's not something for you to apologize for. She's often out and about, so I've been giving her money for meals, but she hasn't been taking it, has she?" "Unfortunately, no. I'm really sorry." My father-in-law apologized to me again and again throughout our conversation. He promised to speak sternly to my mother-in-law, and I didn't say anything more about her attitude, thinking that was enough. I thought I could finally relax, but then I received a phone call. It was from my mother-in-law. "Hello, you're really uncouth, tattling on my husband like that." "What?" "I've been going out of my way to check on you, and I didn't expect you to repay my kindness with such ingratitude." "That's not true. I'm not repaying kindness with ingratitude. You should be the one apologizing. It's audacious to claim you're inconvenienced. I'm educating you in areas where your upbringing was lacking. You should be grateful." "I understand what you're saying, but it is inconvenient when you show up without notice. Should a mother need to make an appointment to visit her son's house, my parents wouldn't do that." "How brazen you are as a daughter-in-law. You should adapt to the rules of your husband's family no matter what." I tried to reason with her, but she got increasingly heated, eventually yelling so loud that I couldn't understand her, and then she hung up. I suspected she called during my father-in-law's absence, so I hesitated to consult him again, as it seemed like it would only lead to more of the same. Although the frequency of her visits diminished slightly, my mother-in-law did not stop coming to our home. My husband was in good spirits as he complained about work to my mother-in-law and received her sympathy. It didn't look like he'd be persuading her to stop the visits anytime soon. Seeing his attitude, my mother-in-law became even more cheerful, and they both began to blame me. "Rachel, you don't show enough respect to mom." "That's right, Alex. Tell her more. I'm only getting a small allowance even though I'm the one earning the money." "What a devil of a wife you have." They continued to eat the meals I prepared while complaining about them. They chatted and laughed in the living room. I had cleaned. When I was washing the dishes, my husband would say, "At least prepare the bath," expecting me to get everything ready from the bath towels to his pajamas. My mother-in-law didn't reprimand him for it, but instead sided with him, saying, "Poor thing, having such an inconsiderate wife." I consulted with my father-in-law again and received yet another profuse apology. But I was exhausted with the fact that my mother-in-law's actions remained unchanged. These were the days that kept on going. One day, I noticed that a necklace handed down to me by my own mother was missing. When I asked my husband, he claimed he didn't know and dismissed me, saying, "You probably lost it due to your own carelessness. It was supposed to be in my drawer." The truth came out when my mother-in-law visited our home again during dinner time. Mother-in-law, that necklace. "Oh dear, it's quite disgraceful to desire something someone else is wearing," she said with a triumphant smile. When my mother-in-law had around her neck was undoubtedly the necklace I lost. It had a unique, unusual design with a peculiar ornament, and there was no way I could mistake it. She was wearing it right in front of me. "Please eat it back." "How awful. Are you accusing me of stealing from you?" "It's not only desiring someone else's belongings, but also calling them a criminal that reveals your upbringing." I couldn't hold back and reached for her necklace. My mother-in-law purposefully screamed, and just then my husband, who had returned home earlier than usual, opened the front door. Seeing me, he pushed me hard, and I crashed into the wall and crouched down on the spot. Looking down at me, my husband, while closing my mother-in-law's shoulder, started accusing me. "Just like Mom said, you've been bullying her while I'm not here, haven't you?" "That's right, Alex. Rachel is really terrible. I just wanted to get along." "Now listen, the necklace your mother is wearing is the one I said I lost. I don't want to hear any excuses." My husband made a decision. "Mom, let's eat out tonight. You better reflect on your actions." With that, my husband left with my mother-in-law. At that moment, the shock of not being able to get my necklace back, along with the anger towards my husband for siding with my mother-in-law without even listening to me, made my pent-up frustrations explode. I decided to take revenge. That same day, I had yet another talk with my father-in-law. While apologizing to me, my father-in-law listened attentively to my story, and I found out that he was also fed up with my mother-in-law's outrageous behavior. During this, I decided to set up a plan. Then again, when my mother-in-law came to our house without learning her lesson, as usual, she was flaunting the necklace and enjoying my reaction. I deliberately told her I forgot to buy something and asked her to look after the house for a bit. Normally, she would have retorted with something like, "How dare you ask me to do something?" But this time, she smiled sweetly and said, "Of course, why don't you take your time? You're always busy with housework." "Thank you. I'll be back in about 30 minutes. With that, I left my mother-in-law at home and went out alone. In the supermarket parking lot, I held my pounding heart, testing the malice of those close to me. If I could get definitive evidence, I could take my revenge, but part of me also hoped that my mother-in-law and husband would reflect on their actions and change. Exactly 30 minutes later, I returned home. What I saw when I returned with shopping bags was my mother-in-law in the living room, messily eating dinner with my husband. "Oh, you were late, so we started without you." Today's dinner was more plain than usual. "Don't you feel sorry for Mom?" I interrupted, but I asked my mother-in-law to watch the house because I forgot to buy something. My husband was quick to dismiss my excuse. "No more excuses. Be careful next time." Looking at the pot with only bits of vegetables left, I felt more disgusted than angry at my husband. I couldn't believe that he didn't even listen to my side of the story. Seeing the two of them in high spirits, I sat across from them, pretending to know nothing. I couldn't hold back any longer. "Hey, why didn't you tell us? What are you talking about?" "About the bank book," I replied. "What are you talking about?" My mother-in-law chimed in, attempting to play dumb. "Oh, I must have been a bit suspicious, but you're being rude. Mom, who's being rude. It's far more disrespectful for you two to use my money without my permission." "What? Who's the thief? You went out of your way to pry open a locked drawer and took it." "So it's okay to steal things that your daughter-in-law treasures, I guess. That's how you were raised, mother-in-law." My husband interjected, "Don't talk back to Mom. You should watch your mouth." That's when my father-in-law appeared, finally getting wind of the situation. He listened to both sides attentively, and I could see the frustration in his eyes. He finally delivered the final blow to my husband and mother-in-law. By the way, about the bank book, I left with Rachel. I told her to take it as a nuisance fee because I felt bad about how much trouble you two have been causing. "No matter how much I warn you, no way. You two stay married, but you're only mad at Mom. Of course, I'm disgusted with you two." "No, I won't divorce." My father-in-law had had enough. "Then shall we go to court?" We'd have to expose everything you've done to the court and your company, though. My husband and mother-in-law were stunned. They didn't want their dirty laundry aired in public. Huh. Oh, yes, we've got it all on camera. You two breaking open the lock and taking the bank book clearly shows you two desperately breaking the lock. No, you're lying. My father-in-law continued, it's amazing how you can call others thieves after doing such a thing. I wonder what kind of upbringing you had. I couldn't help but smile as my father-in-law put them in their place. He had the evidence to back up my claims. My husband and mother-in-law, under my father-in-law's supervision, had to work their fingers to the bone to repay him a total of 60 million yen. I couldn't help but feel a sense of justice as I watched them suffer the consequences of their actions. Once the dust had settled, I received an email from my ex-husband, seemingly asking for reconciliation, but I ignored and deleted it. Thanks to being free from my source of stress, my health improved, and I was able to spend my time freely with the money I received from my father-in-law. It was a new beginning, free from the toxic influence of my mother-in-law and the betrayal of my ex-husband. Free from the constant criticism and manipulation, my life took a turn for the better. I realized how toxic my marriage had been, and it was a relief to be rid of it. I was finally able to focus on myself and my own happiness. I decided to use the financial support I received from my father-in-law to invest in something I'd always dreamt of, but never had the chance to pursue, starting my own business. With hard work, dedication, and the freedom to make my own decisions, I launched a small but promising venture. It was a way for me to regain control of my life and find my true calling. The business started to grow, and I was building a future for myself, free from the burdens of the past. I met new people, made friends, and began to appreciate the simple joys of life that had been overshadowed by the constant stress and negativity I'd endured in my previous marriage. As time went on, I realized that my story was a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of perseverance. I had gone from a life filled with criticism and manipulation to one where I was the master of my own destiny. I had learned that sometimes taking a stand and seeking justice was the only way to break free from a toxic situation. I cherished the newfound sense of freedom and empowerment that had come from standing up for myself. My journey was far from over, but I was determined to make the most of my second chance at happiness. Life had thrown me a curveball, but I had turned it into an opportunity for personal growth and success. And so I continued to embrace the future, grateful for the support of my father-in-law and the resilience that had carried me through the darkest days of my life. It was a story of redemption, a testament to the strength of the human spirit, and a reminder that no matter how difficult life becomes, there's always a way to break free from the chains that bind us and forge our own path to a brighter tomorrow. As my business continued to thrive, I also rekindled my relationships with friends and family who had stood by me through the turbulent times. It was a heartwarming experience to have a support system that truly cared for my well-being. I felt a sense of belonging and happiness that I hadn't experienced in years. Over time, I realized that life was too short to dwell on past grievances. While I had sought justice for the wrongs done to me, I also understood the importance of forgiveness and letting go. It was a journey towards healing, not just for myself, but for my ex-husband and mother-in-law as well. I decided to reach out to them, not with the intention of rekindling a relationship, but to offer closure. Our conversations were difficult, filled with emotions and reflections on the past. It became apparent that my ex-husband had realized the extent of his mistakes and the toxic influence of his mother. He admitted that he had been blinded by the manipulation and had failed to stand up for me when it truly mattered. It was a sobering moment of truth, and we both acknowledged that our marriage had been poisoned by the presence of his overbearing mother. My ex-husband had taken the opportunity to distance himself from his mother, seeking therapy to address the issues that had driven a wedge between us. I could see the sincerity in his eyes and the remorse in his actions. We decided that the best way to move forward was to finalize our divorce and part ways amicably. While it wasn't a fairy tale ending, it was a mature and necessary step towards healing for both of us. I wished him well on his journey of self-discovery and growth. As for my mother-in-law, it was evident that the consequences of her actions had led her to reassess her behavior. She, too, had sought therapy and counseling to address the underlying issues that had fueled her controlling nature. We had difficult conversations where I expressed my feelings and the impact her actions had on my life. She acknowledged her mistakes and asked for forgiveness. It was a moment of closure and an opportunity for her to make amends. In time, we reached a place of mutual respect, though our interactions remained limited. The past would never be forgotten, but it was no longer a source of bitterness. I found solace in the fact that we had all grown and learned from the pain of the past. My business continued to thrive, and I embraced the newfound freedom that came with my independence. I pursued my passions, traveled, and explored the world with a sense of wonder I hadn't felt in years. Life had taught me that even in the darkest of times, there is the potential for growth and transformation. I had emerged from the shadows of a toxic marriage stronger, wiser, and with a deep appreciation for the simple joys of life. And as I looked to the horizon, I realized that my story was not just one of survival, but of resilience and the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity. I had found my path to happiness and fulfillment, and I was determined to make the most of every moment. With each sunrise, I was reminded that a new day brought with it the opportunity for a fresh start and the chance to create a brighter future.